to just like get that ancestral hint. So these small adjustments that we are already seeing over the first few games is fantastic.
And it's all about making those adjustments throughout the event. This meta is as diverse as it gets here for Heroes. Well, let's take a look at this Dahaka gank attempt. The juke, man.
And then Bloodlust to help him escape even more. He gets silenced. And in comes Rhaegar. Bloodlust to get him out of range of that stun. He just turns around and they destroy Kerrigan.
That holy like, it just has that 0.5 second look into the future and just can just like react to it.
It was just one of those moments. You saw good use of Eldruins there to kind of force them into a choke, and then it was able to split the team. So that was one of the key moments in that fight where you saw Tyrael like, well, I'm going to block you from going this because I have Holy Ground. I'm going to force you to go the other way, and then they just collapsed on that choke point and were able to follow up and get kills.
I mean, the Holy Ground alone had such a huge impact in the game. We saw the attack at the bot lane, for example, when Bakery just stepped a little bit too far forward. All of a sudden, Holy Ground behind him, the entire team collapses. Yeah. Nobody gets even close at that point. It was incredibly well done.
I like how Jeho just whispers, death.
I said, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, death. No, it was, yeah. Well, we can look at the very final team fight of that game where we saw Misfits sealing the deal.
They actually had used Bloodlust right there to make sure and secure the keep. And Dread was talking about maybe they can engage, but they don't have 16, but they opted to anyways.
This is actually, I think, the situation. Now, just wait for that Holy Ground. He's completely stopped out there. There's the Holy Ground. Bakery has no way to escape, completely boxed in. And they just get one kill after another and clean house, have the talent advantage, of course. In addition to that, the escape of Blumby. I mean, that was beautiful.
The leyline seal into the mosh pit as well. It does not cancel mosh pit, it simply delays it, and just everyone on their team just ran out of it and began focusing on other people. So we can see he's just standing there dancing by himself.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of desperation plays like the gank that we saw up on the top. They committed a lot to that gank. They didn't get it. It backfired. Here, they were down a talent tier, and it backfired again. So it seemed like they started to get a little bit desperate. They needed to make something big happen. They knew that eventually they were going to be fighting down another talent tier anyways. 20 was real close. So it seemed like Dignitas just decided, hey, look, we're going to have to go for it at some point. It's a best of 5. Let's just let's see what we can do here under that, and it didn't work out for them.
It ended with 14 kills against 0, and that pretty much tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, well, I mean, Dread and Gilly at the start of the series, they mentioned a great stat. Dignitas has never lost in a best of 5 on land to another European team. And that's pretty darn crazy. So we want to know what you guys think. Head to Twitter. Let us know if you think Dignitas can bring it back or if Misfits will close it out. We'll be back in just a few moments.
These fools were warned of my coming. For all the good it did them.
Kuldan! You will not destroy the Nexus!
Destroy it. Pitiful fool. This realm holds more power than I've ever dreamed of. And it will be mine. For I know the truth. In the end, everything will burn. experience has taught the Protoss that when we do not fight together, we die alone. But we shall not see defeat this day. For we stand as one. Our differences will not divide us, but make us stronger. Together, we will defend the Nexus with honor and earn our glory. I am Hierarch Artanis, leader of all Protoss. And in unity, there is strength.
Welcome back here to the HGC Western Clash, and man, they really need to add Probius to that cinematic. I don't care if he's just swarming around the background. But we are now up 2-0 for Misfits going into game number 3. And you know, based on these teams, you guys were expecting Tomb of the Spider Queen a bit earlier. Do you think that's a likely map here?
I was looking at the stats in between, and Misfits 1 and 2, so they've dropped 2 games more than any. It's really hard to take Misfits to a bad map. Then I looked over at Dignitas. They've lost 2 games on Tomb of the Spider Queen. But if you're trying to make anybody uncomfortable, you have to start to consider something different than what we've seen from Dignitas, but it's so difficult to do against Misfits.
The thing to take into consideration again is who picks the map. I actually think that we are very, like for example, if we are seeing again that Dignitas focuses the first pick more than anything else, I feel it's likely that Dragonshire is going to be picked by Misfits. So I think it's a matter of who is going to have the map pick.
It's Battlefield of Eternity coming out here.
A map that Misfits has not played in this season.
Really?
They have
haven't
not
played it at all.
I believe I have 0 games on them. And I think Dignitas, out of the 3 European teams here, they've played dozens and dozens of games. Dignitas is the only team out of those 3 that have played, and they've played it twice, and they're 2-0.
Now this, the fact that Misfits haven't played this could either be due to the fact that the other teams have played them in scrims and realized, oh, these guys are really, really good on this map, or it could be a thing of just underpreparedness by Misfits. Maybe they ban it.
I actually talked to Bakery. I asked him, I said, why does nobody play Battlefield of Eternity in Europe, where it's one of the most popular maps in North America? He said, it's not that we don't want to play it, it's just that teams ban it out against us. They're afraid of us getting an early game lead because they consider themselves good on that map. So this might be a way for them to turn the tides. That was his words exactly, so we'll see if that plays out.
I'm curious how much the Xaylia pick has to do with this. I mean, we've seen Xaylia on Zeratul, and then we saw Xaylia on Kerrigan. But, you know, heroes like Thrall, Arthas might see some more prominence on a map like this where you have those guaranteed battles in the center of the field.
Having him on one of the frontliners definitely makes quite a bit of sense. So he could be on that Arthas again, as you already said here. But the Tracer is another huge option. We've talked about it a lot on the first map that we had here today on Towers of Doom. And of course, they respect that. So the exact same bans that we had in that first game.
Yeah, this is looking very familiar at this point. Tracer to TAS, and then into Malfurion for Misfits. And a Ragnaros coming out here. That should be for Xaylia, and Li Ming for Mena, so he can consistently poke down that Immortal from range.
Yeah, you knew it was going to be some type of mage damage, and Li Ming better than any other on this map in particular for those reasons. So if they can posture up, Li Ming gets tremendous value. Ragnaros can help defend against the Immortals as well as do some damage himself. But Misfits, you know, one of the heroes that we haven't seen, I think it feels like in a while, but the win rate has just plummeted. But a hero that actually does well on this map is Vala with that Q build.
This is true. We have seen her at least twice, I believe, in this tournament so far, where she performed pretty reasonably. And like I said, the Q build on Vala can just give you some immense monster taking down potential, as opposed to Lunara, which is what we saw before people started going this Vala build. And yes, this still has effect with the Nature's Toxin, but it takes Nature's Culling, sorry, but it takes a lot longer. It's still tick damage.
I feel like, yeah, there's just so many more tools in the game compared to when Lunara was initially introduced. And of course, Nature's Culling receiving that nerf. She sees very little play on this map nowadays.
Greymane, boys. Greymane could also be another pick for one of the teams here. Has a huge impact on the Immortal pressure. So that's definitely a pick that we might see. But for now, we're starting things off with a Varian and also with the Tigers here once again. Tigers, especially in the current patch, never a bad pick. And it's, of course, fantastic if you have a lot of frontline heroes to hit. You can stack in the rhythm. If you have a single tanks against you, it's all about the bigger they are. So that's definitely a great pick up for Misfits here.
I actually really like your Greymane call. I think it could warrant a ban here. If you want to try and limit some of the damage, some of the I guess, more standard and force them onto something that might be a little bit different. Because as you guys were talking about, Kerrigan, Zeratul, they've struggled a little bit with the heroes that are high risk, high reward. And if you take them off of something a little bit more standard, Greymane has high potential, but he does really well in the Immortal race. So there's a lot that can go very well with that. So it might be something to consider.
Grim is also pretty fantastic if you are just able to send one single hero towards the Immortal, and there he can really shine. So I definitely think it's an option for the teams here, and therefore, as you said, like a high chance that he's getting banned.
So Greymane removed, Misfits hovering the Zeratul for similar reasons to what you said, Jay. How we've seen some great play on it from Zayda, for example, and we've already said that Zayda could be playing that and switch Rag over to Snitch, but instead they ban a gap.
Also, one of the things when we're talking about Zeratul together with Ragnaros is, of course, like the combo of the ults is really strong. It was, to me personally, a little bit shocking to see during the season how many Ragnaros players would just simply miss and completely waste their heroic ability. It was really fascinating. I never expected that in the slightest. But teams that have shown it here as a combo or even alone have a much higher rate of actually getting huge value out of it. So I think that Ragnaros in particular, when you have that on the opponent's side, getting rid of the Zeratul makes a lot of sense, so you just end up in that blow-up scenario again.
I know we're on the side of Dignitas, but if you're on Misfits' side, I think this is a map where you consider Zarya. We talk about Li Ming poke potential. Arcane Orb, 8-second cooldown. Personal Shield on Zarya, 8-second cooldown. The ally, 12-second cooldown. It does really well against Li Ming, does really well against predictable mage damage, and if you're worried about losing the poke war, Zarya deals with that pretty well.
Well, Dignitas will go for the Muradin Falstad, giving them the one global so far in this. And the Muradin, we've seen a lot of that from JPL, looking very strong. And of course, you have the flexibility. What are you guys expecting for the Snitch hero?
He's going to be on false.
Yeah, the Falstad.
Yeah, he will be playing the
they just have to
because
support
they have Mana. It's just Bakery left
Oh,
to
right.
pick 4, which they do have plenty of options here. Wouldn't be too bad to see the Karazim come out again. Iron Fist, very effective at taking down that Immortal very quickly.
I have to say one thing though when we're looking at the draft. What I like way more what Dignitas does here in general in the drafting compared to what they did throughout the season, they prioritize the hero for Bakery less. If you can pick up Malfurion first, of course, by all means, go ahead. But oftentimes we see them really going for another healer, even so super early in the game when he doesn't have the biggest synergy with that draft, just because they want to have like one of these comfort heroes. Them actually going for different heroes first and saving support for last, since they realize there's no threat against supports, I like that a lot.
Need a solo laner, old school hero. Sonya could be considered.
Could be Nazebo coming out and a Nubarak. So a little bit similar to the first draft, only difference being Tychus instead of a third tank.
That's another way. Li Ming, those beetles that spawn off of a Nubarak, they can block a lot of those skill shots. Plus you have that dampen magic and the already built in now with the Nubarak, that spell armor that he does have. So Zarya, a Nubarak, they deal really well with some of that incoming damage, but with Falstad, Season Marksman is much more difficult because it's a 2-lane map and you don't spend a lot of time in lanes. You oftentimes go into the Boomerang build and go into stacking that Q. So that might not be, you might not get as much value out of Falstad with this type of setup.
Falstad, however, is one of the few heroes that we will see teams from time to time just sending off into the lane. Like, it's one of those situations where you can't invade onto the other team's Immortal because they are set up to protect it, which Misfits team would be very good at doing. So you just send Falstad up. He can fly down, you let him farm for a bit and get a bit of XP.
I'm really surprised that they wait this long on support pick here, and I like that they decide in favor of Rhaegar. I was for a moment really worried that they would go for Karazim, since Karazim is usually, especially for Bakery, a hero that he loves to play, and also in particular on this map. But the problem with Karazim is simply, we have so many situations in which you will need that cleanse early on. You can't wait for the 16. Of course, if you get to 16, Karazim is absolutely fantastic in that situation. But I don't think that they can drag the game out long enough to make that happen. So I'm very relieved to see that it's Rhaegar that they're picking.
I mean, in North America, we do oftentimes see people go for the Karazim for basically the damage you can put out onto the Immortal. It's just very effective. But yes, I'm with you on the cleanse.
I was thinking on the Karazim. I was thinking because, like you said, the Immortal damage, and also due to the fact that Nazebo is probably going to run Superstition again, and the Iron Fist is going to kind of wreck that. Ricardo is 100% right. The cleanse is just too important when you're against a Varian and then Nubrak.
Yeah, and also the Malfurion to lock you down even more. So I think you really need that on level 7, or you're just dooming yourself in these situations.
I mean, overall, how do you guys feel about these drafts? Who do you think has the better draft for Game 3?
Misfits. They've done so well, countering a lot of what Dignitas is known to do. I said it leading up to this event, is that Dignitas is somewhat predictable, especially with Mene always playing mage damage. If you can play around that, they drafted early, you can hit on that back side with something like an Anubarak.
Okay, Dread and Gillyweed take us straight on in to game number 3 to see who we will have or if it will continue on.
Game number 3 of this best of 5 in Team Dignitas' life, at least in the winner's bracket, is on the line here. 2 games down against Misfits. They have a poke comp. They also have Falstad to be able to split off and soak pretty easily, but fly in if needed. What do you think the aim of Misfits comp is to do?
It's pure defensive. They really want to play on the defensive side, look for Dignitas to move up and try and get some damage. That's when they're going to be overly aggressive, especially point 4. Oh man, post 4. But there is something I want to know.
Here.
Yeah, it's a goodness. Words are hard. So one thing I do want to note though is because there is so much committed to the defensive on the side of Misfits when it comes to the Immortal race, and so little committed offensively, and then having the Falstad, this is, if Dig is very patient, there's no reason for them to force anything. If it go bow for bow in the race, Dignitas will win. If you do not, and you just want to go for that poke, like the Nazebo over the long run is the biggest fear, and the spiders just doing way too much damage. But if they can avoid getting wrecked by the spiders, Falstad should lead their experience so high up because of the overcommitment to defense on the side of Misfits draft.
We talked about the poke that Team Dignitas have, which is very, very good with Mene. You said it all comes down to what he picks at level 1. He has gone for power hungry, so getting more ability power and mana from region globes. Were you hoping for astral presence instead, or is this what you were looking for?
So it depends. He can go for either one. You have to at least go with one of the 2 mana when your opponents are going to go overly defensive. If he goes power hungry, then he has to absolutely make sure he can capitalize. When Falstad is side soaking, he needs to make sure he runs in, he grabs that globe as well. If he's not going to and he wanted to overcommit to it, the offensive, Immortal race, then in fact he could go with, the astral presence. I think Astral is probably safer overall, but it's not a must-have.
Dartmark being slowed down, but has Burrow charge. To get away, here comes the fly though.
Do they have the damage here? I don't think that's going to be the case. The W still hitting, and it looks like first blood here for Dignitas, but that's a huge root. Li Ming goes down, Bakery rooted.
What a turn for Misfits to get 2 off of that kill. It started out good. Snitch had Lightning Rod right away onto a new Barak, but out of that, Nazeepo went down in the top lane though, so that's going to help Dignitas even things out. Both teams though, starting to get closer and closer to their level 4 talents as the first Immortal phase has begun.
Yeah, but that little bit of damage here that we do see Misfits, they're able to pick up is actually huge, considering the fact that, again, they have a very defensive team overall.
Yeah.
But again, I think Dig should be very comfortable playing defensive, buying time, not committing anything to a race. Ragnaros has dominant wave clear, and then you have the Falstad for the global side soak. So it's going to be a 1-3-1 split on the side of Dig, and if things get hairy, collapse the Ragnaros, fly the Falstad, and you're looking to gain that XP lead. Snitch, though, got his barrel roll interrupt, but he's going to be just fine for now.
The teams know that after the halfway point for these Immortal health bars is hit, they're going to switch into the safe position to attack, at which point, if Dignitas are really far behind, they do have a lot of damage dealers, so they're going to head straight to the point where they can throw out that damage. Even Falstad coming in, maybe to help. Nope, it looks like they're going to keep Ragnaros and Falstad and just play the patient game. Even if they lose this Immortal phase, they're getting ahead in experience, and they're just going to bring down the shielding as much as they can.
I would have really liked to see a different 4 for Bakery. Specifically, he was going, what we commonly see with the Feral Heart looking for that mana regen. And it's totally fine when you're kind of dancing around over the long run, but I feel like Nazebo is just going to constantly be throwing out Qs onto the Immortal left and right, and so that is going to lead to, I feel like, a must-have at 13 going into Tidal Waves, and then the most value out of Tidal Waves then is going to be, I believe it's Spirit Walker Grace at 4 there to get the mana regen, or excuse me, mana cost reduction onto the Q alone.
Right.
That being said, Bakery,
we'll see how this works out for it.
Yeah.
It will allow him at least to make sure that he has the mana from there and the health regen too. But Zalia's used Molten Core to try to siege down this Immortal. Misfits get the front wall. Now, how much more effort do they put into this push is the real question. This Immortal's still fairly healthy, but it has moved into melee range. Zombie dives in. No catch just yet. It was a nice zombie wall to follow, though.
Yeah, that zombie wall was very close to being a playmaker. Talking about that, though, JPL does hit the stun. You see Mene throwing out the spells, looking to make it happen. Orbs up soon. Throws it out. Nurok, can he get the stun? He makes it out. Less max range The Q from Snitch connects, and they get the kill. Great heals from Bakery makes Snitch get his way out of here. For a moment, I thought, they might turn, but he's going to be just fine here. Very well done. Dignitas fighting back here in this game.
Oh, man, great plays from either side in that fight, especially Splendor moving in, knowing that the orb was going to be coming in, trying to save his teammate as desperately as he could, but in the end, Team Dignitas still able to get the kill and getting slightly ahead in experience, even though they lost that Immortal. They were able to defend their fort. They knew they had Ragnaros to buy that time with Molten Core, so playing it safe earlier on for that first phase, as long as they can keep this experience lead up, that's the key.
Good dodge there coming out from Dark Mach. But good pressure as well. But I like that Dignitas is, trying to force the issue, kind of control the map a little bit, especially with that camp pressure that's happening towards top. Because, I mean, Misfits wave clear outside when Nazebo's not there, who has to match the Ragnaros, because Ragnaros 1v1 is just so good that they can really kind of accent their four-man being overly dominant, though. You don't typically think of either of these drafts as like, oh yeah, the four-man is so hard to deal with. There is a pretty significant advantage here. But Dignitas, they're backing out. They want to set their eyes on to the Shaman camp. Both teams looking to time it with the map objective.
And Misfits moving into position to do the same. And 13 seconds until the Immortals spawning. Team's very close in experience, so nobody gonna have this big heroic ability, at least at the start of this, but either team could make the right plays to get into that spot with this next Immortal.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna be keeping track of the Widowmakers there at level 1, because this is, a Nazebo stacking dream at this point into the game. And look at that poke that happens, right? It's just one Q onto the Immortal, so much damage output. And that's my fear is when it comes to some of the heroes and some of the poke potential, because it's going to be defensive, and then watch Nirok look for that poke on this map. And so Dignitas has really kind of put themselves in a tough spot into the draft, knowing that Rhaegar is going to be one of the weaker supports when it comes to healing with that raw, just split poke out of Nirok.
It's very difficult spot for them to try to move in. Because of where the Immortals are, there's a much easier time for Dignitas to be able to poke from long range with that Li Ming, so Misfits have to move out to keep Dignitas at bay here.
And Nubarak is now collapsing, which means Ragnaros is going to be there, so a small window for Misfits. They need to be aggressive onto the Immortal. That's the case. Blumby comes in as well. Dwarf out there of the zombie wall. Ragnaros is now making the transition down, but Zayli, it's a little too late here. They're not going to be able to stop the halftime show. Stun comes out.
Stormbolt, though, on Dark Mach. And Big Orb connects with Blumby. But yeah, that was so well played by Misfits now. They are behind. They want to get as much damage as they can, and again, because they're running out of time. Team Dignitas, with this constant soaking, has almost gotten their heroic abilities, and Dignitas pushes back Misfits.
Yeah, and so we now see Dignitas, the plan working. The 1-3-1 is paying off here as they're going to win the race to 10. But they need to make sure that during that race to 10, they win the actual Immortal, and that time frame, I think, is going to be a little bit too small, considering Tychus is already soaking there onto top, and, 10 is yet to be achieved here for Dignitas after they committed so many resources to just winning the game of experience.
Yeah, nobody's even moving into position yet to siege down the Immortal of Misfits, who are still getting poke in where they need. Heroic abilities are here. Avatar instantly popped for JPL. Jumping after Blumby. Orb connects. He goes away. It was a wave of force. Knocks him out of Sulfura Smash.
That was... Oh, man, if you ever want to know what anti-synergy looks like, that, in fact, was going to be it right there, and it keeps Misfits alive. Nobody goes down in that skirmish. Ragnaros has backed out, but Nazebo's poke should be enough to make Misfits win this race, even without the 10. Dig has to re-engage. But they've committed 2 members there to the Immortal race themselves, even with 10 advantage. Dignitas here lose the Immortal.
Now, how much can Misfits actually do with this Immortal? Will we see them soak somewhere else against it, knowing that they don't have actually, never mind, they just ramped up so fast in heroic ability or in experience that their heroics are now here, and they can take the fight if need be. Rough spot for Dignitas again, but they still do have Molten Core for the defense.
Yeah, it is a very tough spot, and Molten Core is going to be nearly the only saving grace as we see it used here. The experience advantage is still in their favor, and that is going to be huge for Dig, but again, they have committed so much to that. The fact that they aren't winning that is only telling of maybe where the future of this game is going, because it's going to hit a point where this, we're going to buy time. The Immortals are looking at your keep, and then they're going to be setting eyes to the core, right? That's just going to be the fort. But next time, we are looking more towards that keep, and that is the game-changing play, because then Falset's always looking to get rid of catapults, and your split soaking is no longer the power play and experience. It's an absolute desperation play and a must.
Oh, dive in on a JPL. forces out Ancestral, so Jay wants to make something happen, but Stormbolt doesn't hit Hasuwa, dodges away from that. All of Misfits will run back, knowing that the entire time this Immortal continues to push on, takes down the front wall in front of the bottom keep for Team Dignitas.
Looks like Misfits maybe centering their eyes towards this top 4. This is the best fight Dignitas is going to get right now. They should be looking to try and force this, and JPL looks like he has the same mentality. There's going to go the taunt.
Ancestral is not available for Dignitas. They have to play this out perfectly. There's no saving heroic ability, and JPL has to jump out.
Zaylia is by himself, so Sulfur Smash and the Q keeps him up. Bakery's there with the bite and the heal, but Stitch stuck into the zombie wall there from Nurok. Now Zaylia is on retreat. The nade, Hasuwa's not gonna need it, because in fact Splendor, I mean, between confirming kills, delaying, you know, any kind of channels, you can't let Splendor have Malfurion, it feels like. The guy just is amazing. Every time he's on that hero, it's Twilight Dreams, he's very patient with them. It's just really helping force that Misfits into the position that they have, and now it's going to be a level lead. Dignitas here. There is still a window to be able to come back. It's not completely out of their control.
These zombie walls from Nurok have been incredibly impactful as well. And he doesn't even have the increased range to pull those off. So, man, this whole team, Misfits, playing out of their mind. Dignitas running out of options. The first has to be to get to 13. They're not that far behind. They will have to give away a lot of these mercenary camps to Misfits. Let Misfits play the map game while Dignitas gets that talent here, but they will have it for the next Immortal phase.
Dignitas has to somehow force a fight away from the Immortal of Misfits, but without sitting on top of their own and getting poked by Nazebo. Like, it has to be a swift initiation somewhere in that middle limbo that we have here on BOE, and they need to convert it into pretty much a Death Valley and be successful with it in this next couple of moments, because again, we're going to see a very rinse and repeated approach to this beginning half, and it's no longer the watch us gain experience advantage. These are too important now, and so this middle area is going to be huge. The race is going to go 50-50.
Yep, Dig to start that off, going up to the top. Misfits were looking like they maybe were even going to jump on Dignitas in that rotation, but instead playing it passively, getting to halfway. And now what?
So Dig should look to make the race happen. If it goes even, they should be fine, because Falstad wasn't with them in that last situation. Defensive posturing. Okay, so we are going to have a stalemate for a moment. The camp on bottom, Falstad's not going to get there to get the clear. So this is a terrible position now for Dig.
Do they send down Ragnaros? Because then the moment they see that,
you said Falstad back, which they did, and now you get the clear. If you show Rag anywhere on the map, you are dead. You lose this Immortal.
Yeah.
You cannot risk showing anything but a global at this point into the game. But it looks like Misfits is going to force there, knowing Snitch is not here yet. He's looking to get the flight, looking to join. Garg is going to be popped in the Immortal solo. Can the Gust force here? Snitch is getting killed.
Darkbox chasing after him. Snitch will be away for now. Still has his Gust. The only heroic abilities burn there, Gargantuan and Avatar. Bit of an annoying spot for JPL not to have that survivability heroic, but there's still Ancestral healing, and they have that if JPL gets caught again. But Snitch going after Darkbox, who has Burrow out.
Yeah, Darkmock has to get the Burrow out there, but the camp still exists here in the bottom lane. The Shaman just was removed, so that keep is going to be fine for now on the side of Dignitas. Dignitas can't fight on the Immortal. Again, the composition of Misfits is just absolutely insane. And with, you know, the front line are so fine at just accepting a lot of the damage coming out from Mene here, that it just seems like it's just waiting for Dignitas to get bored, and Misfits is going to move up and proceed to feel the wrath of Nurok. The Odin, though, this is where they want to fight. This is for Dig.
Ancestral, and JPL jumps back in. Snitch is there, moving on to Darkmock. It's hard to figure out who to attack. Darkmock always has those escapes. Also moving in, they want to just do as much damage. Gargantuan once again, and this will claim the Immortal.
The Immortal once more with 50% shields. They do not have Odin to siege up with. The taunt is going to be on, or is going to be available, but Garg not there as well. Both of those are probably their better sieging tools. That being said, it's still most likely going to be a keep here. It's such a strong Immortal, and they're going to get the 50-50 split, saying, you know, you respond to top or you respond to bottom. Dignitas either forces the fight this absolute second or they clear top. And it looks like they choose the fight. Very risky.
Flight, Snitch gets caught in the flight, has to barrel roll over the gate. Barely does so.
Gets the burrow. He doesn't convert the kill though. Snitch on retreat. The Locust Swarm just within range. Keep in mind, we still have an Immortal moving through top. Everything seems to be crumbling here for Dig, as Misfits is going to be closing on 16 and may even look for a double keep now.
They're definitely taking down this one. Immortals starting to get into position to siege down the top, and Dignitas move in. Misfits are going to force the issue, knowing that 16 is so close to here. There it is, 16 talents. Disaster strikes for Dignitas, but Falstad's up in 10 seconds.
Dignitas put themselves in this position. They volunteered for that fight that was potentially game-losing. The taunt now comes out. The root is the follow-up. Is Bakery there for the heals? Cleanse used. Dwarf toss out. Now we see Snitches up, but no Gus for 18. Can they get them up? Nurok goes down first. 60 onto the core. Splendor is now the focus. Can they get the resets? We're looking at 40. Odin's down. 35. They cannot do it.
30.
The resets.
But guess what? There is not a single fort down. Dignitas just can only open up the map. This is not game by any means. Misfits, they gave them experience. That was the only thing they lost. That is fine. That was a beautiful decision on the side of Misfits. It's very comforting knowing it's a double keep in 30% core.
Yeah, it's basically checkmate. It's all but checkmate.
Yes.
Because Team Dignitas, if they can't somehow make massive plays in this amount of time where Misfits is down, if they can't continue to take the fight, then the next Immortal phase, they always have to be worried about the back door.
Yeah, no, JPL barely is going to be able to make it out. The bottom port is obviously not going to be easy to set their eyes to. Just backing out, painting the map red is in the best interest here of Dignitas. They got as much as they possibly could. And that is, you know, the benefit of winning every single Immortal before. Yes, Dignitas, they did gain the experience advantage, but you know that 9 to 10 window when they missed the ability to either get the initiation or commit to the Immortal itself, they really, you know, accepted kind of to put themselves into this position, you know, and their decision-making hasn't wavered. They were willing to take the other one that was a major, major risk. And if it did not work, things were going to get even worse against them. So Dignitas themselves, through decision-making, I feel like they have to understand that their choices need to be more effective and more hasteful if this game is going to change, because otherwise it's just...
Isn't there just one choice from now? You have to keep fighting?
You have to push out?
You have to keep fighting.
Okay, so it's going to get weird. Yes, you do have to keep fighting. It's going to be the main one. So the first step would be there's a lot of pressure on top. I would force pushing on bottom through the fort as much as possible right now, because you know you're going to respond to pressure on top. Maybe even look for the Immortal. You have to do one or the other. You either push the fort or you get on the Immortal right away, because you know Misfits has a absolutely huge advantage. It's going to be responding here at top. It's going to top. They're now moving on what looks like going to be the Immortal, but now they only have, what, 10-second window?
Falstad's going to probably go back to deal with that mercenary
There
camp
it
at some point. Here's where they tried to force for the fight. Watch for Falstad to see if he flies in. He is going to do so. There's the fly. Barrel rolls immediately because of root from Splendor.
They move for damage. Taunt goes down onto JPL. The stun is there. Warbringer bringing the pain. Ancestral is still available. Patience here shown from Bakery as the Immortal now falling down. Not going to get kicked into halftime yet. JPL getting desperate. Ancestral use, full value. The slam, beautiful dodge. Their Splendor is getting flanked though.
Splender's in trouble. Ragnaros throws out Sulfurous Smash. Does damage, but doesn't stun. Nurok's the one. Has to ice block on the point. They're trying to bring him down.
But is kicked into halftime show. Mene actually goes down onto the backline. Now Murden shares the same fate. Nurok keeps himself up. So 2 members down. Misfits goes in, getting now 3 members. Snitch and Bakery, the only ones to deny the core. Gust is up, but I don't think it's going to matter. There's a beautiful dismount. They're going to wait for the shielding to go down. They're going to look for the Gust, but no matter how hard you min-max this, I don't think there's a way.
Nope. This is going to be the end of Team Dignitas in this series. Misfits, for the first time, taking out Team Dignitas in a best-of-5 on a LAN setting. And they will move on in the winner's bracket.
Only proving why they were considered one of the favorites. They are taking on, you know, everybody talked about the strength of Europe going into this tournament. A lot of people projected that they would be stronger than the North American team. And beyond that, just that they were willing to take another European team, you know, get the upset according to the history, changing the pace here, and then just the hunger of these guys. You can see it within their play. Misfits here is just making waves. And, you know, at HGC, before we got to interview them and talk to them, a lot of the players, and it seems like Misfits' point of view was like, this is our year. And it seemed to be the end of it. And it seems like right now, they're making it.
They are.
They're very much going to make it their year.
They weren't at all satisfied with their victories over Fnatic and Team Dignitas, even in HGC. It wasn't enough. They wanted the victories here. They want the absolute victory here of taking this tournament, and a lot of people have hypothesized that it is the tournament that they will take. But Dignitas, they aren't out of it yet. They will move down to the lower bracket to face Gale Force Esports later on this today, even.
Yeah, they are going to, you know, have to prove they still have the strength to maybe take out North America if they want to have a shot here at the Western Clash. It'll be awesome to see that moving forward, but it's exciting. It's exciting when a team is as hyped as Misfits and they meet up to it, you know, and it's very fulfilling here, and I'm only looking forward to their games throughout the rest of it. Hopefully, for me, I would like to see them in the grand finals because it feels like it's very well deserved for them as a group and all the work that they made happen.
All right, we are ready to hear from Hasuabs and Misfits down to Red Eye.
Thank you very much, Skidder. Yes, Hasu, a very thoroughly convincing victory. And I think we'll start by saying there were a few experts that said, yeah, okay, Misfits, they're 7-0, but they played Dignitas early and they had a change of player. Has that put all the doubts aside now that you guys are the real deal?
I think so. We won them twice, 3-0. I'm just a bit sorry about all the circumstances here. That Snitch feels so bad and there were so many breaks in between. So it doesn't feel like a normal win, but yeah, I guess it's unlucky that it's on the tournament day.
First time you beat them in a best-of-5 at a LAN tournament as well. That's got to feel... You're getting all these monkeys off your back now, so does that feel like everything's come together at the right time and this is a championship-winning team?
I think so, yes. And especially the first map, we had a very similar draft like we had in the online league, where they drafted Abatur Jaina and we went into the Anubarak. So we were really happy about the draft. Even though the game was close, we were sure that we would win it. And yeah, the whole set just felt good.
Yeah, the first game was very tight, wasn't it? There were moments in there where Dignitas had a couple of level leads, you were behind, your positioning was a little off in places, some of the executions weren't good. How do you change that around? Or was it just a matter of being patient and waiting for the right time?
No, I mean, we started being ahead on map 1, and then in the mid-game, I guess the concentration was gone for a while, for a few minutes, and then they had really good rotations. Like, the opportunities we gave them, they took it, and then they started to really snowball the map. But the last 2 or 3 team fights, I think, when it was even footing again, we started to win them. And yeah, I guess from there on, we had a lot of momentum. Like, it felt really, really good.
Yeah, game 2 and 3 were much more straightforward for you. Talk us through them.
I don't know what to say about it too much. I guess Anubarak was a good choice again. He's actually very strong against mages, obviously, and they have Mene, the best mage player, so picking Nazeebo and Anubarak is good to counter him.
Yeah, very much fun as well. Looking forward, do you really mind too much who you get? I mean, we've got the North American versus EU battle going ahead in the other semi-final. Fnatic are looking strong, though. Is that the team that you would expect to come through to face you?
Of course, they are the Europeans.
And that's a nice way to end it. A little bit of feisty fight there from Hasu. Congratulations to you guys and to Misfits. Let's find out from our panel what they made of a thoroughly convincing victory for Misfits.
Really beautiful series from Misfits all around. I mean, Dignitas, of course, we mentioned they do have a bit of an issue on their side with the illness on one of their players, but still, you can't take anything away from Misfits. That's 6-0 this season over Dig.
Of course, it looked a little bit shaky at the end there. We do have a quick announcement that Kalaris did attempt to enter the premises, but we were able to force him away before he was able to cause any real damage.
The cursor. Now, looking at that game, I mean, do you think there was some of the anti-harmony that caused Dig to lose that? I mean, we saw that one time where the Sulfura smash was pushed away by Li Ming, and in a few other moments where it just felt like the communication wasn't 100%.
I mean, this is one of those moments that shouldn't happen, but every now and then it will still be a thing.